Hey, I don't know if you saw this movie. Brendan Fraser's Best Actor win for The Whale. I saw that movie. It was an amazing performance. I didn't really like the movie. It's not my thing. And it was upsetting in many ways for me. But it was well done, and his acting chops were amazing. But they're calling it fat phobia at its worst.
Now, is that... I don't get it. What's the phobia part?
So when Fraser, this is what it says. When Fraser received a standing of... Well, let me just go into it. So I just want to let you know, spoiler alert, the woman who wrote this admits, but not until like the 20th paragraph. She says, I'll be up front. No, you weren't. You buried this in your article. You didn't start with this. You buried this. She says, I'll be up front and saying that I haven't actually seen The Whale and I don't intend to. Okay. That I think we can dismiss you. But the reason why I'm not going to completely dismiss you is because I want to show you I want to show the world why we should dismiss you. Okay. Because this is nuts. You didn't write anything to that, right?
And we got a key.
Hey, going into this year's Oscars, this is how she starts it off. I had a bad feeling that the Academy voters would give Best Actor to Brendan Fraser. Did you have it in your gut? Fraser was nominated for The Whale, a movie that many critics have characterized as deeply harmful portrayal of a fat person.
They haven't. Many? No.
When he did end up winning the award, the whole room stood up to congratulate him. You know.
Well, standing is fat-phobic.
It is. Well, it's feet-phobic. But what about people who don't have feet? As I watched at home, I looked around at the audience on screen and saw a sea of thin people. You mean you're looking at the Academy Awards? Who likely have no idea what it's like to be fat. Vigorously applauding a non-fat actor for portraying the thing that frightens and disgusts so many people, the most in the world, a fat person.
Okay, I have a question. Well, how fat is this author that they think Brendan Fraser is a non-fat actor? The guy's pretty fat. He's not fat enough for you?
I thought he was pretty overweight when he...
Yeah, but that's not fat enough.
That's not fat enough. So only 700-pound guys can play 700-pound guys. You have to find a 700-pound actor.
That's not fat. Okay, so if you do blackface, that's not black phobia. That's racist, right?
Right.
So fattest, I guess you would call it. Stop putting phobia on everything.
It apparently doesn't matter how many fat people tell Hollywood how degrading it is to put thin actors in fat suits. I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
You know what's more degrading? Getting a giant fat person and making a movie about how sad and fat they are. That's probably a little more degrading.
I think what's more degrading is writing this article. That's what's more degrading.
That's certainly...
You don't feel stupid about writing an article condemning a movie you haven't seen? The guy's portrayal was... you say what you want about Brendan Fraser. In fact, it was his artistic achievement was amazing.
You know why he put on weight, by the way?
No.
Brendan Fraser? He got sexually assaulted by a Hollywood producer. And I think he got I think he got blacklisted for talking about it. That guy went through a lot. Or maybe stress ate a bit. Okay? It seemed like it shattered him from the stuff I saw. So It's not like this guy is just some privileged... The guy went through a lot of stuff and he's fat. So I think you could... Where's the sympathy for him from her? That's why they're applauding. They all feel
They're applauding
guilty
because he overcame a lot to achieve artistic greatness.
Plus they feel guilty because I don't know the name of that producer and they're not going to say anything about that producer. That's weird that Harvey Weinstein had a whole trial, but the guy that sexually assaulted Brendan Fraser, we don't know who it is. Right? In the age of Me Too, that's still protected. And they're all going to not get into it. So there's a lot of reasons why it's not fat phobia. I know it's none of the reasons they're applauding for it.
Here it is. It says, the industry simply cannot and will never be able to relate because being thin is part. So just resign yourself to that then.
What do you mean never being able to relate?
So if you say they never will be able to relate, so you're just going to write this every time they do a movie that features a fat person in the lead role, or you're just going to keep... So you're saying they're never going to be able to relate because being the thin... What?
Maybe some of them will be assaulted by a producer and then eat, and then they'll relate. And then they'll relate.
Because being thin is part of the job description for actors and other image-driven celebrities.
Yeah, no kidding.
They make it sound like it's Nazism or something, like to be not
it's like
fat.
You're mad, like this is image driven, so that means it's superficial. So you're like, why aren't I the superficial thing? Like, I would think the dignity would be like, yeah, I'm fat. I don't care that I'm not a model. That's not the end all be all of.
The Oscars were held in a room in which a not insignificant number of the attendees are likely taking Ozempic or subscribe to some wellness trend that's really just bad dieting in disguise in order to shed pounds they don't actually need to lose. Then why don't you feel sorry for them? Why don't you feel sorry for them? Also, why wouldn't you have any sympathy for those people who feel they need to do that, even though they're already thin and they're caught up in this horrible oppressive system? Why wouldn't you feel sorry for the people?
Is she not aware that fat acceptance, the new bizarre thing where they say it's totally fine and healthy, is brought to you by Ozempic? That's who's they're paying. They never remember. Just I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, the news would be like, America's too fat. And you show somebody's fat ass walking down the street, like people.
Yeah, I remember they would do that. I remember they stopped doing that,
and now they stopped doing it. And they're like, America's afraid of being, which is amazing. Same media that did this now scolding you. But it's not healthy. It's just not. There's no way to make it like it's healthy. It's not a good thing. It is a sad thing.
There's a lot of people who pretend that you can be, that they're healthy, even though, like Chris Christie, when he went on David Letterman, he goes, oh, my cholesterol, perfectly normal. Oh, my blood pressure, your blood pressure is perfectly normal.
Hey, some people can't help it because our food supply is poison.
I know.
So that's the real thing that no one's going to address.
She says, she goes on, Kurt, she says, the point of this endless weight loss endeavor is not health. By the way, I was fat when I bulked up right before I moved to Los Angeles because I'm a genius. So I was probably 210 pounds when I moved to Los Angeles, right? So I had a big chin. It didn't really, of course it bothered me, but not enough to do anything about it because I still looked good in a suit.
I bet you would.
And I had a girlfriend and she didn't say anything about it, so I didn't care.
Okay, so you're a non-fat person, according to this article. Because Brandon Fraser, were you Brandon Fraser fat?
I don't know how fat he is right now, but probably. Not fat suit, but anyway. So and then I had to lose that weight, and then anyway,
I did think it was silly when I was watching him interview Brandon Fraser, where he talked about like what it was like to climb into, like it was so, like he jumped in this mind blowing thing of what it would be like to be fat. Dude, it wasn't that big a.
The point of this endless weight loss endeavor is not health. Thumbing through 126 photos from the Vanity Fair Oscar parties. So you thumbed through the Oscar party photos, but you wouldn't watch the movie that you're going to write an article about? You don't even have any. The vast majority of celebrities are shockingly thin, which sounds like pisses you off. Which also could be said of nearly every Oscars presenter on Sunday night. Nearly, but not everyone. Jimmy Kimmel does. He was fat, and then he did that.
That's why I stopped watching when he got thin. When he stopped doing blackface and got thin, I was out.
But then he started doing intermittent fasting. So he 2 days a week he doesn't eat.
Oh.
It was clear to me that the image Hollywood continues to project is a fantasy that bears no resemblance to the contemporary United States, where the average woman wears a size 14 to 16. Is that true? I've heard that, and I wouldn't doubt it because I travel. And I see a lot of people. Can you look at what what's the average dress size for a woman in the United States?
Did she just complain that the image Hollywood continues to project is a fantasy that bears no resemblance to the contemporary United States? Are you joking? What do you think the point of Hollywood is?
That's the point of it, right?
14.
Like, what are you talking about?
Size 14.
So the average dress size of the average woman, so the average woman in America wears a size 14. Now it's even higher, 16 or 18. Is that good? Is that a good thing? I would think they would also say, what percentage of women in the United States are overweight? Let's ask Suri. Hey, Suri, what percentage of women in the United States are overweight?
For what percentage of women in the red states are overweight?
Wait,
no, not red states.
Wow.
Not red states.
Suri's
a shit lib. I knew it with that bullshit accent you have. I wish I was kidding when I said that accent rubs me the wrong way, but I don't like it. In fact, according to the Centers for Disease Control, More than 70% of American adults are overweight.
That's not just the women, it's everybody.
That's everybody.
Yeah. I think I'm considered overweight, definitely.
And according to the CDC, Kurt, this puts them at a higher risk for serious conditions, including diabetes, heart disease, and cancer.
Yeah.
For women, being overweight or obese after menopause increases the risk of breast cancer. So it's not good. This idea that, and I'm not saying that to beat up on the overweight. I'm not doing that. That's not what this is. This is about you, because this is about crazy mentalness. This is about mentalness that Brendan Fraser won the Oscar playing this guy, and you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to. No one ever is supposed to. You're not supposed to artistic. The whole point. And then she also says something about writing. Go ahead.
This is about, so when that representation nonsense became the thing. Now I understand if you're a 5-year-old and the hero looks like you. For a child, adults started doing this. So now Hollywood to certain people is like some kind of like Congress. You have no power in real government. But they look like me. That's like I'm like, it's not supposed to be a mirror.
Right.
You're supposed to watch a thing that goes somewhere else.
So, of course, this is the same voting body that gave Fraser the industry's most important award, all for putting on a fat suit and portraying a pitiful caricature of a fat person.
How do you know? You didn't see it.
So you didn't see the movie. So you don't even know. How do you know that he did a pitiful caricature of a fat person? How do you know that? Because everyone else who are the artistic people, they all say he did a great artistic interpretation and captured you and made you believe what he was doing. And it was emotional and it was moving and it was soulful.
Well, this also is an argument for Jimmy Fallon's Chris Rock impression. So
I don't know. I don't know what that means.
He's put on fat suit. It's just a thing of dress up. They've made it like wrong to dress up like someone else under any circumstances. Okay.
Well,
so now
go ahead.
Every identity is going to want to get in on, this is the black version of blackface to me. Everyone wants in on that. And it doesn't really match up. Again,
if you're a white person, if you're like a white male, this is a great way to become a marginalized person. Well, I'm obese and you're fat-phobic. So now instead of me being the oppressor, now I get to be the oppressed. So of course, this is the same bouquet. So here she is where she admits that she never even saw the goddamn movie. And she said, I'm going to admit up front. That's not up front.
No, you would do that right.
You would do that right at the beginning.
Up front.
That's what up front means. I made the decision in the fall. In the fall.
That's what I made it too. When the reviews came out.
When reviews started coming out after its film festival premieres in Venice and Toronto. My decision to skip it wasn't only about Fraser donning a fat suit in order to portray a dying, divorced 600-pound English teacher, Charlie. It was also that it was written and directed by two thin men. That's the whole point of writing, is to put yourself in someone else's position and then write about it.
But you see it trying to make it like there's a fat race. That's what this is like. Look, the one guy said he self-medicated with food as a young man.
The original playwright and screenwriter Samuel D. Hunter, who has said he self-medicated with food as a young man, which is not the same as identifying as fat.
That right there is where the identity politics bullshit is, and that's what I'm talking about right there. That's that little nonsense. This is our identity group.
God.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks, intersectionality. You've done great for us.
What?
It's just switch out white or whatever.
Identifying as fat, like now you're a protected class, right? That's what that means?
Yeah.
So now you go from being the oppressor, the white oppressor, now you go to being some kind of protected class because you're so vulnerable.
I mean, you get
that is really something.
There's like fat studies at colleges,
that the guy who wrote this isn't fat enough. Right? Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, this is
the
nonsense
guy who wrote
that's been
this.
going on for a while in every identity group. You're not like somebody. Who's the guy who made Hamilton? And he made about Washington. I used to live in Washington.
So only obese people could take this guy's play and then write about it. And the guy who wrote about it, he wasn't obese enough. He's not fat enough.
That's why a bunch of people that are straight are saying they're queer, that are actors, but they're not.
Do you, and this person thinks they're not mental, and whoever published this,
why do they think that?
Then the person who published this and edited this doesn't think this is. They're all suffering some kind of personality disorder because they are.
Yeah, this 10 years ago, 12 years ago, that's when this stuff started happening.
This is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Why do you think people hate the left? I mean,
but this isn't left. These are just mentals.
It is now.
That's the problem. Well, it is the left. Well, it is the Democrats, and people see the Democrats as left, and they're not.
This is the Overton left.
The reason why the Democrats do stuff like this is because they have abandoned workers, and they've abandoned you economically, which is why this is all they'll ever talk about is racism, white supremacy, sexuality, LGBTQ, and now this. Not that all those things shouldn't be talked about, but the hyper focus on that is because the Democratic Party and the establishment has abandoned the country economically.
Yeah, and that's why we're getting...
Well, the point of it, if you really just look at it, that this character was in pain. That was the whole point. Is existing
it really
in pain.
Wasn't about fatness as much as someone in severe pain.
Yes, it's like if they had a character that was an alcoholic.
Oh, you can't do that. Are you alcoholic?
You have to be an alcoholic.
Are you an alkyphobe?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So leaving Las Vegas, you could never do that because it would insult alcoholics. He said he had a problem when he was a teenager with drinking, but he doesn't identify as an alcoholic.
We're all going to be in our little boxes and be represented in Hollywood like it's a government.
This is nuts. I'm not going to see this movie because skinny people wrote it, even though the guy who wrote the play wasn't fat enough for you.
Hey, that's worse than just being skinny the whole time, being a traitor.
From what I gleaned early on, without seeing the movie, the whale fell for the trappings of classic trauma porn. You didn't see it! This is really happening. Like, you're not humiliated, not for being fat, but that you would write this. It shows that a personality defect that is deep. Some kind of mental disorder that you need help with. They shouldn't be printing this and fucking enabling your bullshit. They should be getting you help.
You probably should see The Whale. It sounds like it gets into this mentality.
That's right. Well. Yep. So The Whale fell for... You didn't see it, so you don't know what The Whale did. The Whale fell for the trappings of classic trauma porn. So was Private Ryan, was that trauma porn? Or was that a movie that showed you what it was like to be in war? Just like The Whale, is that trauma porn? Or is that showing you what it's like to someone who's got an obsessive compulsive disorder and who's slowly killing themselves with an addiction? That's what that is.
We think like Law and Order, SVU, and all them crime things that a lot of chicks, many of them on the heavy side, enjoy quite a bit. That's all trauma porn.
That's all trauma porn.
Like the whole thing is you're getting off on watching a problem cause trauma.
Every movie, every war movie's trauma porn. Every cop movie's trauma. What are you talking about?
Also, stop calling everything porn. I don't come when I watch it.
As someone, well, not as hard as normal. As someone who has worked hard to counter my own anti-fat biases. Good for you doing the hard work.
The hardest job of all.
The hardest job of all.
Convincing yourself not to work out.
As someone who has worked hard to counter my own anti-fat biases and embrace the word fat to describe myself, I wanted no part of it.
Except this article that you're writing that makes you part of it?
Right. Now you are part of it. Further review, and again, this isn't, and I know there's some people like they're saying now that they gain weight easier. I know that's the truth.
Definitely people do.
I know that's true. Further reviews discussed graphic scenes of binge eating that sounded triggering to me.
She's reporting on reviews.
She's reporting on a movie she overheard someone else talk about. She's talking about, she overheard or she read. Not because I have experience with an eating disorder, but so you don't have an experience with a disease. What? But because further reviews discussed graphic scenes of binge eating that sounded triggering to me. Not because I have experience with an eating disorder, but because Charlie apparently wanted to eat himself to death.
I want to know how fat this person is, because they better be like enormous to be talking this way.
To be talking like this, you better be pretty fat. Roxane Gay's review of the film last December only validated this got printed. Like this, everybody should be embarrassed about this. Everybody should be like, what's wrong with us? Like, woo, I gotta go. What is wrong with us? She wrote that she cried. She wrote that she cried during most of the film, not out of empathy for Fraser's character, but because it was painful to witness how utterly careless the writing and directions were.
Yeah, well, shut up, Roxane Gay. Roxane Gay is the one that came up with the idea that it's not cancel culture. It's what I call accountability culture. That's Roxane Gay.
Who is she? What has she
wrote
done?
Bad Feminist about like,
okay. It was crystal clear that Mr. Hunter and Mr. Aronofsky considered fatness to be the ultimate human failure, something despicable to be avoided at all costs. It was crystal clear without seeing the movie.
Yeah, and I think if he was binge eating to kill it.
Maybe she does remote viewing. Maybe that's what it is. That's how it could be crystal clear. Crystal clear? Gay also correctly predicted that Fraser would be lauded as brave by his peers for being willing to embody so many people's worst fears.
Well, I'm probably getting that suit is pretty brave. That sucks.
Well, it was an emotionally brave thing acting, to be able to act that well, you actually have to put yourself in some kind of mental state to do that kind of, and be that vulnerable as an actor. It's an art. And so that's why it was. I think it was brave in lots of ways when people do acting like that. It is courageous because you're emotionally challenging yourself. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Kurt.
It wasn't intersectional. That's what she's saying.
3 years ago, I published a feature in the LA Times suggesting a version of the Bechdel test.
The Bechdel test. You know what that is?
No.
For fat representation on TV. So the Bechdel test, which was very popular around 2013. I'd see it in a lot of like blogs and stuff. It was for women. Like, I'm going to go to a movie and there has to be a scene where at least two women that talk to each other and not about a man. Okay.
Oh my God.
Now, I thought that was some Swedish institute, I don't know, kind of test. I made a sketch for Amy Schumer show that we ended up doing because I looked up that it was already a joke. Basically, I had this sketch where she wanted to follow the Bechdel test, and the only movie she could take her niece to was The Human Centipede. Okay? So, because it's such a stupid thing, the Bechdel test. Because all those movies when they talk about a man, those are movies made for women.
Yeah.
Like, so I found out the Bechdel test is Amy Bechdel, or I think her name's Amy Bechdel. She's a lesbian cartoonist who made a comic strip where she invents this test and goes with her girlfriend to them, and they have to go see Aliens. That's the only thing they can go see is like a movie a dude likes. So she was already making a joke with this. And then these dingbats took it and were like, this should be a test for life. And now she wants a fat version of it.
It was not enough to write fat people into scripts and cast fat actors in prominent roles, I argued. That's not enough. It was important that their storylines not revolve around their weight or desire not to be fat. So we have to completely, divorce it from reality.
Right.
I naively assumed that fat suits worn by thin actors, epitomized by the fat Monica gag on Friends and Gwyneth Paltrow's character in Shallow Hal, had gone out of fashion, lauding shows featuring fat women as protagonists, such as Shrill and Orange is the New Black. I don't know. I never heard of that movie, Shrill. In 2023, I no longer feel so optimistic about the industry's progress on the issue of diverse body. I'm sorry.
Representation. What did I tell you? This drivel.
I've seen numerous examples of thin actors donning fat suits in recent years, mostly to depict real-life fat people. These include Sarah Paulson as Linda Tripp, Viola Davis as Ma Rainey, Renee Zellweger as Pam Hupp, and Tom Hanks as Colonel Tom Parker. That was the one that hurt the most. How dare you make
a fat activist? This is like a thing where we're going to try to make it a race. We're a race now.
Earlier, so you can't have Tom Hanks play that. So no one's going to go see the movie if you don't have Tom Hanks in that role. Then what do you do? Then nobody gets to make the movie, and then nobody gets a job. Are you happy then?
Jimmy,
because Tom Hanks, that's why that movie got made, because Tom Hanks was willing to be in that movie in a fat suit. And so then that's got the funding for it. Go ahead, Kurt.
The real story here is that you just found out about how this nonsense works just now. Like, There's no explaining this to someone who believes in this at all.
I can't believe this.
In fact, you could expect to be attacked, expect some fat activism coming your way just for even covering it.
I can't believe this.
Earlier, this has been going on for 10, 12 years.
This is nuts. Earlier this year, photos were released revealing that action star and martial artist Scott Adkins, an incredibly fit man, would be portraying a fat character in John Wick Chapter 4. As one fat activist, a fat activist.
You don't say active.
So I can't do Chris Christie jokes anymore?
No, I think you can. You just can't play him in the movie.
Oh, I can't play him about his pain. But I can still make fun.
I don't know.
I gave him, for Christmas, I sent him a Pepperidge Farm thing. I mean, the Pepperidge Farm. I sent him. Anyway.
Is this Daily Beast?
Yes, this is a Daily Beast.
Yeah. So this is like some moronic.
Daily Beast.
Yeah, yes. Daily Beast is the worst thing that's ever.
As one fat, it's Chelsea Clinton's on the board, I think. Mm-hmm. As one fat activist on Twitter noted recently, one key difference between characters like Fat Monica from decades past and the current trends is Hollywood is that the fat suits were played for laughs back then. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, A-list dramatic actors don fat suits to garner critical acclaim and win precisely the type of awards Fraser just took home. And that's bad because his win sends the message, this is it, to his peers that this trend is not merely acceptable, but a good for your career. All of the media surrounding Fraser's role has framed it as a huge comeback after all. Holy shit.
Yeah, for the record, I thought The Whale looked stupid and kind of but I didn't watch it. Much like
I saw the whole movie.
But
I didn't enjoy it just because I don't.
There's no empathy for this. Brendan Fraser undeniably went through some crazy traumatic thing, and the guy can work again. All this supposed. That's why I can't stand intersectionality because, on paper they everybody has different experiences.
I don't understand it, Kurt.
What it is a little pyramid hierarchy of this kind of person. Like there's no humanity. It's so superficial. You can't relate to someone unless they look like you. Basically like racism. I can't relate to you because you don't look like me. You're a different tribe because you're a thin writer and I'm a fat writer. It's almost like dividing up a prison into prison gangs under the guise of some kind of progress, and it's not.
Hollywood, a place where thinness is valued above all else. Still, no money is what's valued above all else. It's money. If you can make money with a fat guy, they're going to do it with a fat guy.
Harvey Weinstein did very well for many years.
Harvey Weinstein did very well. A lot of fat actors. Look at Marlon Brando.
Harvey Weinstein ate till his dick literally fell off.
Come on. I mean, if they could, it's all about money. And Hollywood, a place where still seems incapable of creating fat characters that don't perpetuate pernicious myths about our bodies. What are some of those myths?
Yeah, what are they?
What are those myths? As fat activist Aubrey Gordon writes in her new book, which debunks myths about fat people, thinness is just a matter of health. Isn't just a matter of health or beauty or happiness. It is a cultural structure of power and dominance. I wouldn't deny what she's saying there. I wouldn't deny that. To reward stories like The Whale and the non-fat actors who star in them while wearing fat suits is to give their thin creators carte blanche to continue distorting the reality of our lives, painting us. So who's supposed to tell these stories then?
Irrevocably
broken or one-dimensional.
She sounds like both of those things. You sound like you're both irrevocably broken
and one-dimensional.
Like, you just painted that. He probably gave a lot.
He gave a lot of depth and nuance to that character, way more than this person's writing gives to herself. She seems very irrevocably broken and one-dimensional.
These are the people that showed up when Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out and they're interviewing the cast. Somebody demanded to know. They counted how many lines the chick that played what's her name had, and how come she was only given and said the number of lines. And Quentin was like, I don't even know. Your whole premise is growing nuts. And the Daily Beast went after him like he was bad to answer. This is like a parody of a Marxist.
This was like a parody. Like if I was going to write a joke article, this is what I would do. And I would also put in it, I didn't see it.
This is what they were doing. Yeah.
That's the funniest part of this whole thing. I didn't see it.
This is what they were doing with comedy back in like 2013 or whatever. When all these same imbeciles were blathering about how comedy's supposed to work.
Right, because rape jokes.
Yeah, the great rape joke wars of Daniel Tosh.
Remember the rape joke wars of Daniel Tosh? That's exactly right. And then
who are these big rape joke comedians?
Mike really McRae did a great joke get a great bit about that. He said he was complaining about Daniel Tosh. I'm like, I didn't know you were there. He goes, I wasn't there. I don't have to be there to be offended. What you're doing is called proximity bias.
Oh. That sounds like a real term.
He did. That was so funny. I don't have to be there to be offended. What you're doing is practicing proximity bias.
Stochastic terrorism.
When we see fat people binge eating on screen, as in The Whale,
which you didn't watch,
or see,
hear about someone else seeing it,
Matilda the musical, or something similarly well regarded like precious fat-phobic stereotypes, such as the idea that all fat people are unhealthy, don't exercise, and are obsessed with or have an unhealthy relationship with food, gain traction and staying power.
I don't think they said all fat people are that. I think they said this guy had an unhealthy thing of trying to eat him.
This guy, a lot of people, this guy represents.
I think Marlon Brando had that problem of literally trying to eat himself to death. But like traction and staying power, that's great. There's no traction and staying power of this is a healthy way to
Can you
live.
put Kurt up when he's talking? Thank you.
This is what has been known for health for a long time. The staying power is it's not healthy to be that big. It's not. It's not like a thing to go, you know what? I'm just
like it's a choice.
Yeah. Don't like
it's just as healthy as a choice to not be.
Now, as far as people are bad and they're lazy and bad, that is a thing. Because I think the guys, you're not supposed to think he's bad and lazy. He had some trauma, right?
Yeah.
So the food supply is making people fat. It's been doing that ever since the food pyramid, where they said have carbs and cigarettes at the top of it. So that's the thing, really. If you want to be mad at that. Not some, it's just like look a little higher up on the chain of where the problem's coming from, maybe.
Look at this right here. And as Gordon documents in her book, anti-fat bias is far more harmful to fat people than being fat. That's a tough one. Did you hate it? Did you hear James Gandolfini had a heart attack and died? What was it? Anti-fat bias.
Oh, wait, Gordon, what's the person's name? That book?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's another person that was maybe on the payroll for, remember those
Aubrey Gordon. Yeah. Aubrey Gordon.
Maybe it's not who I thought it was.
Okay, so let me keep going. The solution seems obvious to me, she says.
Okay. Me too, by the way.
Fat people need the power and opportunity to create our own stories, grounded in the experience of living in a fat body and the ability to cast actors that reflect our body diversity. We don't need any more trauma porn written or acted by thin people, projecting their worst fears about looking like us onto the page and the screen, and then patting themselves on the back for deigning to represent us.
Okay, by the way, it's not a fat phobia, the thing of being afraid to look like you're fat. What people are afraid of is not getting laid. It's not getting laid phobia. Because if they are getting laid, a lot of people get real fat and don't care.
They
suddenly don't care if they're fat.
I didn't care really that when I was fat. It didn't really bother me. The only reason I started to lose weight is I got invited to the Montreal Comedy Festival, and you're supposed to go up there and get your development deal. And I was like, well, I better get my development deal. So I started jogging and I started working out and eating less. And I lost weight, but not enough. I didn't get my development deal. Goddamn thin Hollywood.
Hey, if I'm in a relationship, I let myself go hard. I'm suddenly not fat-phobic about being fat anymore.
I remember the day I decided I was going to eat dessert with every meal. And I did. I did that for about 2 years.
Wait, you actually, what brought you to that?
I would have a dessert. Because I felt poor growing up.
Oh.
And then I started to earn my own money, and I wasn't in college anymore. I wasn't broke. I was broke for the first 24 years of my life. I was broke. And, I was just always living hand to mouth and whatever. And so then I finally started making money doing comedy, and I had money for the first time in my life. Not a lot of money. I just had money. Just enough to pay my rent and buy a car and eat.
Yeah, right.
And And I was just like, I always felt like now I can eat what I remember the first time I was going through a supermarket and I looked down and I realized I could get anything I want. Yes. I could go get chocolate milk right now and drink it. I could go get a carton of chocolate milk. I could go get a bag of chips and chocolate bars and ice cream. I could do whatever I want. I could do whatever I want.
I mean, I think you should make this movie. I know this chick's not going to like it, but
it really was like, wow. Anyway, so then I started eating dessert with every meal, and I was dating this girl, and she owned an Italian deli, and she was a great cook, and I ate my head off, and I got fat, and she didn't say anything.
Yeah, this is a classic.
And if she would have said something, I probably would have did something.
I used to date a Sicilian chick she was older than me too, and she just like fattened me up like I went to a gingerbread house.
Like they don't mind fattening you up.
It was like on purpose to like.
I know, keep you other women away from you.
Yeah, it's like an old, Sicilian move. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, there's no way that I'm not going to catch shit over doing this, right?
I mean, you're not going to be chased.
Go to jimmydore.com to see my new stand-up special, COVID Lies Are Funny. For only $10, you get to become a premium member, too. And come see us do our live shows. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy in Milwaukee, Nashville, Honolulu, Los Angeles, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, New York, Cohoes, New York, Hartford, Connecticut, Baltimore, Maryland, and more. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.